Hi, here I'm going to show you the second method that I use for stretching a paper background um, in post-production. So this is a small width seamless background, and I wanted it to be much bigger, and what I used for this one here was a radial gradient. Now you can use a straight gradient as well. It just depends on the picture. So I chose a radial gradient for this because I kind of like the soft vignette that it gives. So let me just put that down for a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to recrop. Make a little bit of a tilt. I think that'd be nice like that. And I'm going to go to my layers and I'm going to make a new layer, just a blank new layer, and I'm going to go to my gradient tool. So my gradient tool is under my paint bucket, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the darkest color that I want the background to be, which is this one down here, and I'm going to choose for the foreground, for the background, I'm going to choose the lightest color that I want, and somewhere in the middle here, because my gradient is going to go from here to here. So they're the two colors that I want to replicate in my radial gradient. You have to make sure up here that the circular gradient is selected and that you've got it on the first swatch here. The second one, it fades to transparent. You don't want that. You want the block to go from your foreground color to your background color. So once you have that, I'm going to switch these over because it's the lightest color, or the top color that is at the start, and I want to choose where I want to start it, and I want to start it somewhere in the middle. So I go from here into the darkest color, so that's where I want the darkest color to be. And that looks a little bit too dark to me. I think I'm going to just lighten up the background just a little bit. Okay, so I think that'd be nice. So I'm going to click on my mask tool now, and I'm going to, at 100% opacity with the brush on black, I'm going to erase back the subject. So once I know that I've got the whole subject back into the picture again, I'm going to go in and tidy it up a little bit, make the brush a little bit smaller, and go in with the white this time because that'll bring back what I want. Bring back in that gradient. Now there's a shadow here on this side that I don't want to erase completely because I don't want her to look like she's just floating on nothing. So I want to just lower the opacity of the brush and with the black feather back in some of that. No, not too far. Feather back in some of that that shadow on that side. Okay. So once it's feathered out a bit, because I want it to look a little bit natural, see a little mark up here with white. Just get rid of that. So once I'm happy with how that looks, I'm going to give this, I'm going to click back on the color section of this layer here, and I'm going to do the same as I did in the previous one and give that a little bit of noise. Same as before, monochromatic, uniform, and just right down at around 2%, really small amount. And I'm going to convert this to black and white because I think that'd be nice. But first of all, I'm just going to give it a very quick run through of portraiture. This is just for speed. You can also use the skin smoothing action that I made. And set that to 50% opacity and rub back, erase back any things that you want to keep in nice sharp detail like her eyelashes, lips, eyebrows, hair, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to run my fresh black and white action. And this is quite a contrasty action, so you can go in and you can click on the layers and see, well, there's quite a high contrast in that one. So on that one, I'm just going to paint back in over the bits that I think are very dark. And maybe also on this, just because that's a very dark dress that she was wearing. Maybe bring up some of the highlights on that. So I'm also going to run my resize for web. So when you play resize for web, it'll set it to screen resolution of 72, which is good for the web. And up here you can have whatever size, you just type in whichever size you want that suits your website or your blog or what you like for your proofs. So I'm going to set it to 900. And that just gives it a little bit of sharpening for the web, which is good if you're resizing things. So there's the before on a small background seamless with an awful mess behind, and the after, which looks like a nice big studio.